Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this debate. The motion is that this House will allow prisoners to choose death over instead life sentence. Now, I ask today's proposition strongly believe that this is true and it will work in a good way. But before we come to our actual argumentation, let us first define some important terms in this debate. Prisoners sentenced to life are humans who are accused and convicted of a serious crime like murder, and processed by law which states that they should be isolated in prison for the rest of his or her life. Just that instead is that giving the convict a certain amount of rights to choose a shortcut for freedom of pain and suffering from jail. So my first reason why I am proposing this motion is that by allowing these prisoners choose death instead of life sentence, is that they will benefit the nation in a few ways. Firstly, death sentences are cheaper, more efficient, and it uses less resources. In fact, prisoners getting sentenced to life normally gets a higher standards of living than a decent percentage of nation's citizens, especially the poor. With this knowledge at hand, wouldn't it be fair to say that this isn't justified, especially when we know that most of the taxes that the people pay to the government are channeled into supporting these murders?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome from this side of the house. She was claiming that life sentence costs more, but I think that death sentence costs more, deliver less, and puts innocent lives at risk. For example, remember that a death sentence case costs an average of $3,000. Now we as today's opposition strongly believe that is not true. But before we come to our actual argumentation, let me first continue with my definition. The motion is this House will allow prisoners to choose death over life sentence. Prisoners is a person who is deprived of liberty against his or her will. Means any person for the time being in a prison as a result of any requirement imposed by a court, or otherwise that he be detained in legal custody. Death sentence is a punishment by death for a crime. It's a sentence of execution for murder and some other capital crimes. Life sentence is any sentence of imprisonment for a serious crime, under which the convicted person is to remain in prison for the rest of his or her life. My first reason why we are opposing this motion is because allowing them to choose death is giving them an easy way to out. The reason they are going to jail is that they need to learn that crime doesn't pay. Also, allowing them to kill themselves means that they can be relieved of any suffering or lessons they might have learned in jail. Not to mention that the victims of the crimes should deserve to see the criminal punished. And I think for this reason the motion must fall.
Well, let me go to my next argument. First, on the concern of the prisoner's rights, if you think that since the person commit a crime, all his rights are ripped off from him at the instant, you are definitely wrong. There is a limit to know how much or what the government can take away from the people. Who may we remind you are still human beings. These people must be given the option to choose whether they want to die, as they are aware of how their life could end up, hence sentenced to life in prison. The government itself don't have the right to choose what we should go through.
Let me come to my first argument. This House won't allow prisoners to choose death over life sentence because if you think of what the horrible crimes they have committed to get the death sentence, most of the time they have killed more than one person. And yes, getting the death sentence is painful, but it's merely just for a short time. With a life sentence, make them wait out, they should suffer a less of what the pain they brought into others. They lost all their rights when they kill another person. Die is the easy way out. Anyone can die and all their crimes will die with them. They just forget what they have done. In death, they don't pay for it all. However, life without parole provides swift, severe, and certain punishment. It provides justice to survivors of murder victims and allows more resources to invest into solving other murders and preventing violence. On the other hand, if the man guilty may be serving the will change, so instead of giving him the shock of death, we could give him the time to redeem. Gandhi said, "An eye for an eye will make the whole world blind." Death as punishment for death is not the solution. Supporters of life imprisonment say that the death sentence encourages a culture that is okay with violence.
Okay, I will continue our case in a minute, but before that, there are some things about the opposition speech that it need to be mentioned. That they lost, Vera said about revenge. She mentioned that they lost all their rights when they kill another person. This is not true. We know that this is a horrible crime, but the murderer is still being a human, is still being a citizen. He will lose his rights when he dies, not in the jail. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I have told you today, firstly, I am not encouraging death or life imprisonment. I am rather giving prisoners to choose. So the law is not in any way based towards on the side. For us, the civilization to advance, we need to start moving away from punishments and start looking on another alternative. The eye for an eye mentally would not solve anything. A revenge philosophy inevitably leads to an endless circle of violence. It is important to send a message to the society that striking back at your enemy purely for revenge will always make matters worse. By doing this, we are showing that our country is not always full of vengeance to kill an imperfect member of the group. And for all these reasons, I think that the motion must stand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome for the last time for today's opposition. It's now my pleasure to summarize this debate. Take a look what I have said. Firstly, allowing prisoners to choose death is giving them an easy way out. They have to learn that crime doesn't pay. Secondly, they should suffer a less of what the pain they brought into others. If they die, the crimes will die with them, and they will forget. This is not fair for martyrs, victims, and their family. They need justice, so it's fair if they see the prisoners suffer. And thirdly, the time that the prisoners will pass in jail maybe will teach them lessons about life and think of what they do. Also, death sentence, how I said, is more expensive than life sentence. So, for all these reasons, this motion must fall.